Whenever you're ready, man.
Here we go.
Sounds great.
Justin, loosen up. It's okay. It's okay.
Jesus God. Hey, welcome to the 2-year anniversary special of Film Fanatics.
Yeah.
My name's Dan.
My name's Justin.
And I'm Joe. Some of you guys know me as Merlin.
Yeah, and we appreciate your hookup with the video stuff. We're going to do a video show today for you for the 2nd anniversary, which just passed a couple of weeks ago. And we thought what we would do is some just kind of fun top fives, one of these staples of our show. So we each came up with an idea that we're going to present. And that is 5 movies that people would think that we like based on our typical preferences, but that we don't actually like.
Mm-hmm.
That was Joe's idea. Very interesting.
Thank you.
For me, I wanted to do 5 movies that sort of have fallen through the cracks. We've reviewed them. They are new releases from the last 2 years on the show that maybe have kind of been forgotten about, that we sort of want to shed some extra light on, extra love. And then Justin is going to explain something to us called perditioning.
Now, you mentioned
which
this
is something he's mentioned several times
on the podcast,
on the
so
show.
please, just let's define it. Apparently it's my idea, but I don't think it's true. I'm pretty sure you came up with this.
It was your idea, but I've run with it more, I think.
Okay,
For
yeah.
sure,
But please
yeah.
define for the listeners what perditioned means.
Do we want to do this now, or
We may as well do it now, and then we can sort of reiterate later, but it's based on the film Road to Perdition.
that's correct, Dan. Perditioning is in honor of the movie Road to Perdition, which was way back when it came out, pretty big noise because Tom Hanks was this very likable, everyman kind of character, and then we saw him play this hitman, and everyone thought it was a really big change of pace. And then, probably no less than 3 years later, conversation about it just stopped.
Nobody
It
talks
was
about
bizarre.
it. Yeah.
And we've noticed that trend with a couple movies recently, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to throw out 5 movies that we feel have been perditioned, as it were. And for all these lists, there's no real order. We're just going to kind of name the 5 that we think.
Oh, I put them in
Did
order.
you put them in order?
I was
Okay.
like, you know what, the most hate or the most love, you know.
I put them in alphabetical order.
I like
So I
that.
guess there is
there's
an order.
There's an order.
You're right.
Oh, you're
There
like,
is an order, but all right. So Joe, let's start with you. You had the movies that people would think that you like, but you do not.
do you want me to just go through the whole list or save number one?
No, let's go through the whole list.
All right. Well, as usual, I'll start off with 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
First one is not really a surprise, based upon what I've talked about on the podcast, but Inception. People would assume that I would love that type of movie. It's surreal. It's about dreams. It's got DiCaprio in it. It's kind of a crime thriller. I don't really like Inception that much.
You've done a whole video about it on your channel.
I ranted about it, but there was a time when everyone was like, it's the best movie ever, it's totally up your alley, which I could see, but I was greatly disappointed, mostly because of the hype, but I had to at least mention it. Another one, which I think might surprise you guys as an honorable mention, is Casino. I don't really like Casino that much.
Really?
That's any reason why?
I actually thought that was your favorite Scorsese, or one of them.
Goodfellas.
Well, yeah, that's true.
that is a classic.
Now, the
sorry.
reason I'm not putting in my official 5 that I did is because it's been a long time since I've seen it,
Okay.
but I remember feeling it was kind of slow and not really enjoying it that much.
Wow.
Okay.
In comparison to Goodfellas. So that's just
Okay.
a few honorable mentions, but number 5 is Cloud Atlas. A lot of people were like, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
weird, big, surreal, sci-fi. No, don't like Cloud Atlas that much. We did it on the show. I think I gave it a B- or something. Had a lot of issues with that one. Number 4 is Natural Born Killers. Oh, it's really violent. It's Oliver Stone. You think you're going to like it? No, I've never really...
You have mentioned that to me before.
I found this one to be kind of just annoying, kind of really stuck in the time. Just, I don't know. Thoughts, Justin? I could see you turning.
That's one of those. That's sort of the same issue I have with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a very good movie. It has a lot of interesting media commentary, but the problem with any movie that does sort of media commentary in that regard is it's almost instantly dated because it's changing and evolving so rapidly. Natural Born Killers definitely has its place. There are some themes there that are more or less universal, and it's not a bad movie, it's just horribly dated.
I also thought the editing in it was terrible, too. I just didn't like the pacing in the movie at all.
Well,
Honestly.
it's all over the place and trying way too hard to rely on subliminal messages.
I think so. But yeah, that's one I think a lot of people would assume I'd like, kind of Tarantino-esque. No, never.
Okay.
Don't really like it that much. Raging Bull. Not
Really?
Not
Double
really.
Scorsese.
Double
Wow.
Scorsese. I know he's one of my favorite directors, but this one, thought it was incredibly slow. Thought some of the performances weren't quite as good as some of the other De Niro ones. It's not in my top 5 for him or anything. So yeah, not a little bit overrated in my opinion.
Wow.
But Raging Bull, still a good movie, but just not for me. Number 2, which is actually the one that got me thinking about it, Scarface. I hate Scarface.
Yes, you do.
I do. I know, and once again, you'd probably assume I'd like it.
I would have thought that instantly.
But let me ask you something, Joe. Have you seen the 30s version?
I'm talking about the Pacino 80s.
No,
classic. Yeah.
No. I know which version you're talking about.
Okay.
Joe. The one everyone.
The college dorm room.
Okay,
everyone
excuse
talks
me.
about.
Excuse
However,
me.
my question to that is in regards to like, do you just hate the overall storyline, or do you just hate the movie?
No, I like the original. I like the concept and based around Al Capone's life. I like the original 30s version. It's just that, I mean, there are elements of it I like, but I thought it was overly long. I thought it was pretentious. I thought the editing was off. I thought Pacino's performance was... It's
incredibly overrated.
It's hokey. I mean, compared to most of his ones, I just think it's really overrated. So Scarface is my number 2. My number 1 might really surprise you guys is Spaceballs. I don't like Spaceballs at all.
Really?
I love Spaceballs.
I know.
And I don't like Star Wars.
Maybe that's why. And I always thought it was interesting for parodies of Star Wars for fans, but I remember I've tried to get into this one a couple times. The humor doesn't work for me. I don't know why.
Wow.
I can't even explain it. I mean, you'd think so, Mel Brooks, but I've never really liked Spaceballs at all.
Very interesting.
Are there any others in his filmography that are of that caliber for you?
I think actually I've liked what I've seen of him before, but I think no, I don't think I generally have liked most of his recent stuff of the classics. I know The History of Time I liked.
The History of the World Part 1.
Yeah, History of the World Part 1. I enjoyed that one.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I liked that one, but Spaceballs, which I think is arguably his most popular.
It's up there.
Certainly with youth, I would say it's his most popular.
Yeah.
Maybe
I would say his most popular overall is maybe Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein.
I'd probably say Young Frankenstein.
Well, yeah,
right?
I like Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But maybe the humor was too childish for me. Like, oh, you've been jammed. You'd think I'd like that.
God, I love Spaceballs.
See, I know.
Well, I saw it when I was... What year did that come in? 87?
87,
I saw it when
yeah.
I was 10, so...
So, and I feel like if I...
You've Been Jammed was funny.
Well,
Yogurt, that's funny.
Yes. The merchandising.
Use the spork. See, I feel like if I saw that movie when I was a kid, I probably would have loved it. But I saw it for the first time when I was like almost out of high school. And this was in my phase of super serious film enthusiast.
David Lynch style stuff.
Getting into that,
It's a bit different.
So
More or less.
Spaceballs.
So I have never liked Spaceballs.
Okay.
Not even remotely.
Wow.
So yeah,
Very interesting.
Throwing some heavy hitters out there for you.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope you guys can match those.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll do my best here.
Okay.
I also have 2 honorable mentions.
Ooh.
The first one is Speed Racer.
Okay.
Now, I went pretty much like, some of those on your list you at least gave mildly positive or average grades to.
Okay.
The ones on my list I just
Loathe them.
hate. Not all of them are Fs. Speed Racer, however, is. People may think because it's very colorful and kid-friendly and there's a lot of quote-unquote fun stuff happening.
To be fair though, Dan, Speed Racer was actually kind of divisive, so I could understand
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And if you really knew me, you would know that I also didn't like the cartoon, which is why it's on my honorable mention because...
You like the fact they talk really, really fast all the time when everything's really, really fast?
Really did not really care for Speed Racer, to be honest. My second honorable mention is a Mel Brooks movie,
Okay.
and that is The Producers. Matthew Broderick,
I don't like
Nathan
The
Lane
Producers?
version. I really think... Now, the reason that this isn't in my top 5 and is an honorable mention is because it's more on that average line. I think I gave it a C or a C-.
Wow.
Okay.
My problem with it is that for some reason Nathan Lane, who I love, great in The Birdcage, many other things, was that was Harvey Fierstein, but
I got you.
You got me. He, for some reason, forgot the difference between the stage and the screen, and everything he does is like really these big motions and
Belting it.
it really bothered me the entire movie.
Huh.
So I couldn't do it. I think it's a good show. The songs are good.
I love that one.
But not among my favorites.
Okay.
So here's the 5 that I chose in alphabetical order.
Alphabetical.
A Christmas Story. This one's another one that's pretty divisive. People tend to love it or hate it.
I'm with you. I don't like that one at all.
But I love Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Ralphie is adorable. But I hate that movie. It's not funny. He's not adorable.
Well,
it turns
the kids
out
are
he's
so unlikable
awful.
in that
They're
one.
so annoying, so terrible. You know, oh, you'll shoot your eye out. I wish he did.
Like
to be completely
the part with
honest.
these sticks stuck on the pole, I just kind of wish he just ripped it off.
Yes,
it's
I
horrible.
did too.
You ever seen it, Justin?
I have. I actually kind of
People like it. It's
It's
fine.
fine.
I understand that is a very divisive.
See, for
word.
Film Fanatics, this is where the truth comes out, the secrets.
It's one of those that like I like it, but I understand why people don't like it. I do agree. Ralphie is incredibly
So annoying.
Oh.
So annoying.
I agree.
So that's on there. Clueless is a movie that I used to like. When it came out in the 90s, I was like, oh, cool. Clueless is great. I was big into Alicia Silverstone at the time. She was in all the Aerosmith videos. I watched it again about 4 years ago.
Hmm?
Oh, God, is it bad. It's not good. But people still love it. The reason I actually rewatched it is because it was either E or Bravo. I think it was E. Did a list of like the 100 greatest comedies. Of course, most of them were the last like 25 years worth because it was E.
Yeah.
But that was on there pretty high, and I was like, I do remember liking that movie. I'm going to watch that. And it just isn't good. It's not good.
Well,
so
I've never seen it, but I know that people do like it.
people
I was
seem.
gonna say.
Wouldn't you think that would be a type of movie I would enjoy?
It's very 90s, right?
Yes, it is. Which leads me to my next one, Empire Records. Very 90s. Are you guys familiar with this
Never heard
movie
of
at
this
all?
one, no.
I read up on it after you mentioned it on the show. I mean, off air a couple times.
Yeah, it is very 90s. It came out in 1995 on the heels of such favorites of mine as Reality Bites, Threesome, Singles. This movie is not good. Liv Tyler stars in it. I believe a young Zellweger is in it as well.
Oh, nice.
Ethan Embry. It's not good. I actually gave it an F upon my... Now, I didn't watch it in the 90s, so maybe that would be another one like Clueless that I would have liked in the 90s. I saw it for the first time maybe like 2006, 2007.
Not good.
Hated it.
But a lot of people like that,
A
apparently.
lot of people like it. And seems like, if you know me, it would be a movie I like. Number 4 on my list is Grease.
Oh, I get that.
Grease is painfully overrated.
The songs of Grease, many of them I like. A couple of them I don't care for. But on the whole, the movie is terrible.
I like that one.
The acting is bad. The high schoolers are about 35 if they're a day. I know that's one of Joe's big pet peeves in life. So that is one I can't stomach. The songs are good though.
Hey.
I don't mind like if it comes up at a karaoke, that's fine.
You know what? Just to interject as a little side note,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I really like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because I didn't know this. When Sarah Michelle Gellar started it, she was 16 in the beginning. She's a real high schooler. She's actually aging
Yes.
the age she is
Yes.
in the story. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god. There's a show that does
That
this?
70s show was very high
Yes.
school heavy.
Like Mila Kunis
Mila
was
Kunis
14.
was 14,
That's like,
which they didn't know, but still, she was.
But I mean, like, thank you.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Find young actors that are talented.
I'm glad you actually brought that up because a while ago, like a week or two ago, Regal ran a re-release of
The sing-along.
of the sing-along for Grease.
Oh no.
And my biggest issue with Grease, ever since I was a kid, is still prevalent, which is the best song happens less than 5 minutes into the movie, which is
That's probably
not even
true.
from the show.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Hmm.
I think there's a few good songs in it, but as a movie, it stinks. My number 5 is also a musical, and that is Moulin Rouge. I really like Baz Luhrmann, Romeo and Juliet. I like Gatsby probably more than most, but Moulin Rouge is unwatchable. The songs aren't even that good. Nicole Kidman is at her worst here, and for me, that is saying something. It's just not a good movie, and I will give it this. It's one of the movies that actually solidified me and Justin's friendship, so I guess it was
Something good
worthy
came out of
in
it.
that regard, because I was telling him how much I hated it. But yeah, so that's my list of the 5 movies that people would think I would like.
That's good.
Justin, let's hear yours.
Well, to challenge myself for this gentleman, I decided to avoid some of the gimmies. Obviously, when we reviewed Mean Earl and the Dying Girl, you may have noted I mentioned in my review that it might be one of those. People would really expect me to like this movie, but I don't.
I did think you were going to like that.
I thought that too,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
So I guess that would be my honorable mention. But I've tried to keep away from the easy picks for this list. So number 5, El Mariachi. Now this is one that I should like because of all the aspects associated with it. Done on a shoestring budget, trying to tell a really big budget action story on very minimal effects, if at all. A lot of experimental editing. It's just awful. And I mean, the nicest thing I can say about it is thank goodness somebody got on board to let Rodriguez do a sequel, because he found at least a way to build on those themes to make it sort of fun. The first one's just, for lack of a better word, unpleasant.
Well, you know what? I've always admired him for that one, though, because he was able to really push himself. He donated blood so he could fund that, you know? He let himself be experimented on. Rodriguez, to get that little film off the ground, I mean, it might not be perfect, but considering what he had to go through...
Apparently it stinks.
It's not a good movie.
I don't know. I've always kind of liked it, but I will admit it has problems. But then again, first-time director with nothing practically. I always kind of give him the benefit of the doubt there. And then we got Desperado because of it. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I have issues with Desperado too, but I mean,
Of course you do.
it's at least a fun action movie. I can give it props for
Well,
that.
Justin, let me ask you: do you have issues with Once Upon a Time in Mexico as well?
Well, of course, it's Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That's stir for another
He
day.
doesn't like shorts either, which,
And Johnny Depp, so.
you know.
Do you like any Rodriguez movie? Not to turn this into a battle, but I'm just
Kids?
No, that's okay. Spy Kids was good. Spy Kids 2 I liked.
Oh, I hate
Alright.
Spy
Yes, I know your issue with Spy
You hate
Kids.
Spy Kids?
Let me think.
I think they're
I
cute.
mean, Desperado was like a B,
Dusk Till
so.
Dawn, maybe?
From Dusk Till Dawn, I think is incredibly overrated.
Man,
Yeah.
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror, I do think is really
Okay, we got one.
There you go.
I
You got
do
one.
like that.
You got one out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
good. Number 4, I'm curious to see how you're going to react to this one, Joe. The Devil's Rejects. Now, I think Rob Zombie's a better director than people are giving him credit for. I'm actually one of the few people who did, in fact, like his 2007 Halloween reboot. But this was an idea that probably sounded really cool on paper and just doesn't translate well to screen. Let's make the horrible, psychotic villains from the first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, the quote-unquote protagonists of this one, and continue to watch them do horrible, disgusting things to people, and then feel bad when people decide to finally fight back against them.
Well, if you like, I do have a response.
Please.
All right. Well, House of a Thousand Corpses I love. I think it's awesome in its own kooky way. Now, I actually really liked the family in the first movie, making the main characters. I don't think it was impossible to pull off. However, this could have been a good component for my list. The movie is incredibly unpleasant. It's just unpleasant.
Extremely, yeah.
It's just literally watching these people do horrible things to other people for like 90 minutes. And it's
Well,
also
yeah.
shot in this gritty, ugly fashion. The whole movie's meant to be totally unpleasant. No,
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to like The Devil's Rejects a lot because I liked House of a Thousand Corpses. I found it almost unwatchable.
I mean, I respect it for what it's doing. There isn't a sequel quite like it,
True.
but I just don't think it's that good. Just because you have an interesting idea doesn't mean you should make it,
No, people
is-
were behind that one, though. You're right.
which is probably my biggest issue with that. My number 3 is a much more recent movie, and that is Escape from Tomorrow. Do either of you know about it?
No.
I don't think so.
All right, so a little while ago, back in 2013, this team of filmmakers went to Disney World and shot
Oh, yep.
yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
yep,
gotcha.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Okay, I heard about this one.
this like weird
I remember
dystopian
that.
movie.
Uh-huh.
The concept is really, really cool, and for the first, I want to say 15 minutes, I was legitimately on board with this movie. And then you find out it's basically going nowhere. Around Act 2, it tries painfully to be David Lynch, and then it just sort of ends.
Always a mistake.
It could have been a really sharp commentary on Disney and corporations and things like that. It's just pretentious sci-fi trying to be something more. Oh my gosh. I mean, I do respect the effort. I would love to see more people try and do films of this caliber. It's just...
You'd say it's Tomorrowland done wrong. Or more wrong?
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't like Tomorrowland all that much either, but
More than that, yes.
Well,
more than that for sure.
Well, Escape from Tomorrow was a D+, Tomorrowland was
Yeah.
a B at least. So
There you go.
Right.
Credit where credit is partially due, I guess. And my number 2, Slaughterhouse 5. I love Vonnegut, and when I heard that there was a movie about
I'm
Vonnegut,
not even sure if I knew there was a movie based on that.
Yeah.
there was.
Okay.
And surprisingly, it's fairly well received, which I find surprising because it more or less betrays everything that was great about the book.
Yeah.
One of the best components of it was seeing the story unfold out of chronological order. For some reason, the filmmakers decided, hey, let's tell it in chronological order.
Yeah. It's kind of like watching the film version of 1984, It's just not the same caliber.
It really isn't. I mean, I enjoyed Slaughterhouse-Five significantly more than 1984, but this was...
Understood.
This was just such a joyless adaptation. I'm actually really glad that Guillermo del Toro is trying to do a new version of this, and I hope at some point he can get it off the ground.
He's the man for it.
Oh, definitely. If anyone, maybe Terry Gilliam, but
At least the aliens, you know.
at least the aliens.
Love to see his version of them, definitely.
And my number one won't be a surprise to you, gentlemen, but definitely to the listeners. The Game.
Okay.
Oh man, we're gonna throw down now.
Why?
Why? The question is, why would you bring it up? Joe now has to battle you on the game.
You have to do it. No, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Be quick about it, gentlemen.
I'll have
I've
to-
never seen it, so I can't contribute.
But why, listeners? Why is this movie so beloved as this top-notch psychological thriller? Let's just start
Why?
with the minimum. Michael Douglas plays a horrible
He
human
doesn't
being.
have his movies anyway. What's the difference? What's the difference?
But we're supposed to see him have this character arc.
He
then
does.
Then he gets.
The whole movie is his character arc.
Let me continue.
Okay.
Then we introduce the game. We have no idea throughout the entire movie what the game
That's
is.
the point. You're not supposed to know what it is. It's a game.
But here's the point.
It's a guessed up game.
The point of a game is to have some degree of rules. You're wondering the entire time of this movie, what is the freaking game?
They tell you the rules at the beginning, and they just go to the utmost extreme. They're gonna make his life more exciting, and so they do.
And then the rules are
It doesn't
basically-
sound good, Joe, to be
And then
honest.
basically the rules are more or less, let's just find more and more ways to mess with him, and therefore the viewer. And you, the viewer, are expected to be tortured along with Michael Douglas and somehow find enjoyment out of that. I'm not entirely sure how.
Look. I think it functions very well as a psychological thriller. You know I love the game. I really do. And I love the game. But you know what? I will admit it has some problems. But even despite that, there's some amazing guilty pleasure here, though. At the very least.
Well, you're right on the guilty pleasure aspect.
I mean, like,
but,
you
but to
Sean Penn?
but here's
Come
the-
on.
completely
You like
wasted
Sean
Sean
Penn.
Penn. But the creme de la creme is the ending.
Hey,
Where
can't
I
talk
got-
down about the ending.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about the ending.
rationale is completely thrown out the window.
Dude, it's awesome.
For
It's so-
ridiculous,
look,
nonsensical, dark humor.
Look, if you guys haven't seen the game, watch the ending. Okay, it's not exactly what you'd expect. It could infuriate some, but it does help issue that character arc. He does grow from that point. He does.
Sort of.
He does.
Sort of.
He does.
Sort of.
Well, sort of is still something. Okay, and
Not quite. It's more or less,
There sort of is something.
Sort of is something. Yeah,
By definition.
it is something. So okay, I do agree the ending could be divisive. I think that's the biggest problem with it. But at the end of the day, Criterion, Justin. What now? What now? Yeah.
Well, they
get-
all
Don't start on Criterion,
The
please.
Criterion Collection.
We've been over it.
Right up there.
Francis Ha.
Again, The Rock and the game. Big game, Criterion.
Yikes.
Okay, moving
All right,
on.
moving
Have to
on.
do the game.
So let's do another list here. This is going to be the top 5, or for me, just 5. Did you rank these ones too?
I did try to rank them, yes.
Okay, again, alphabetical order for me,
That's
but
fine.
these are 5 new releases that we've done on the show in the last 2 years that we feel sort of fell through the cracks. Maybe they weren't big hits, or maybe they just sort of came and went without so much as much of a mention. So I'll start mine. I do have one honorable mention, and it's honorable because I feel like it could fall into this category, where it may, in a couple of years, fall into the perditioned category.
Uh-oh.
Because it did rather well at the box office for what it was, and that's About Time.
I thought about that one.
It was a great movie that did, like I said, relatively well, but even only a year later, nobody talks about it. Rachel McAdams, gives a great performance. Domhnall Gleeson, we love, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Classic son of Brendan from Calvary. And just a really interesting time travel story that we don't see that much. And the father component's very good as well, Bill Nighy.
I really like that movie.
Yeah. When we had our special guest Tim on to do the top 20 of 2013, that was in his top 20.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie. But with that in mind, speaking of the top 20, most of these were not on my year-end list. I feel like we've talked about those enough, because obviously Cavalry is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
It kind of fell through the cracks, but we did talk about that at length, so I sort of didn't stick to those types.
And to be fair, it did get a lot of critical praise.
Correct.
So I mean, it got
To some extent.
Correct.
some love.
Not
Yeah.
really enough, but...
No.
So the first one on my list is actually the only one that ended up in my top 20, and that was Dom Hemingway.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a movie that just came and went. Went to very limited amount of theaters. Did not do very well dollar-wise. But it was one of my favorite movies of last year. I gave it an A. I thought Jude Law was fantastic. It was funny. I wanted to see more from it, actually. It was one of those that was a bit too short, even, for my taste.
Oh, yeah.
You know, wanted to see more. Number 2 is one that we have talked about a few times on the show. We did it both in new releases and as a new classic, and that's In a World. I love this movie. I've seen that now 3 times. I watched it once, just for fun. Just for kicks. And this is one that Justin mentioned on his top 5 movies that, or maybe it was on my top 5 movies. Movies that I would like to see be TV shows. For that matter, maybe Dom Hemingway was too, but maybe there's a theme. But I really love this movie. I thought Lake Bell gave a fantastic performance. She's very funny, and she wrote the script, which is very good.
And she didn't throw kids off buildings.
She didn't. Yeah, I don't know what I feel about this No Escape movie where they throw the children off the building and Owen Wilson and her catching the babies. They're not babies, I guess they're kids. But
Baby catching the movie.
yeah, it's like that's kind of what's happening. We'll be doing that on on next week's show or in 2 weeks, but yeah. But anyway, In a World definitely deserves some more love. It is available on Netflix for streaming if you guys have Netflix. Number 3 is Obvious Child. Mm-hmm. This is one that I really liked. Jenny Slate, who used to be on Saturday Night Live, does this very dramatic but also comedic turn. As this woman who becomes pregnant and all sorts of heartaches ensue from that. A really good romantic drama, I guess you would call it, maybe, but it's definitely funny as well. So that needs to be seen for sure. Number 4 is the only foreign one on my list, and that is The Past. Ooh. It's an Iranian movie that we did for a home media moment, and it was nominated for. Or submitted, I think, for the Oscars, but didn't get the nomination. But it was nominated for Golden Globe for Best Foreign. And this is from a favorite of mine, Ashghad Farhadi, is that right? Ashghad Farhadi, who did A Separation, which I gave an A+ to. This guy knows how to write characters.
Absolutely.
And dramatic ones at that. If you know me, I typically like a good comedy. Most of these on my list so far have been in the more comedic vein, but The Past is just hard-hitting drama.
Very much
so good stuff there. And the last one on my list is Pride. We did this one for a home media moment as well. This did get nominated for Golden Globe for Best Comedy last year. It's about the gay revolution, basically, in the 80s in England.
The miners.
The miners and how they sort of... not miners under 18, but miners, like coal miners, and their union, and sort of them joining forces, and just a story that I didn't really know much about. I thought it was funny, I thought it was touching, really good performances as well. So, all movies that I think should get a little more love.
No,
Justin?
definitely. I think most of those are very, very incredibly underrated, actually.
Thank you. Most, but not all.
Obvious Child got about as much credit as I think it
That did get a lot of critical praise, but I don't think the general population knows about it.
More
I
so
think
now.
the listeners, maybe if you guys didn't happen to catch that episode, maybe you don't know about it. So yeah. Justin?
All right. Number 5 for me is Calvary.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
If only for the fact that I think it's ridiculous that the Academy did not acknowledge this movie whatsoever.
It's a great movie.
It's bizarre.
I was considering mentioning that too, but I'm like, it still was fairly well received. But I do agree with you. That movie should have been nominated.
It should have been. It should have been.
I'm gonna be mad about that forever.
It's another.
I mean, it's definitely better. I gave it an A+. It's better than everything on my top 5.
But
I just thought we kind of did it to death. So I didn't mention it, but
remember the big reveal of the top 10.
I can appreciate what you did with it. Number 4 for me is Song of the Sea. I feel like this is one of those that yes, it did garnish a nomination. However, the problem is because of Big Hero 6 and everything else, it just got horribly swept under the rug. And it is a pity because it's a great family film.
It is a good movie.
It breaks my heart that not enough people have seen this movie because it's fantastic. Number 3 for me is one that we've been ranting and raving about for years, particularly from Dan and I, and that is Mud.
That was my number 1. I didn't feel like that needed to be brought up for me anyway. That was my number 1.
I considered that one too.
2013. That movie's great.
Another classic case of just where we got to be better at seeing movies that aren't being campaigned, at least from the Academy standpoint.
Yeah.
Because there is some great stuff out there, and if they're not getting acknowledged, people aren't going to seek them out.
I swear with you, with these
Mud's a great movie.
the Oscars, the movies are like elections. You know, if you got enough
More or
funding,
less,
goes
yeah.
for everybody, oh yeah,
Right.
Oscars, you know, watch this one. Like, come on.
I mean, it's ridiculous that we live in an era where American Sniper can be up for Best Picture. Mud doesn't even get a nomination.
yeah, it's a little.
Well, I liked American Sniper, but it's neither here nor there. Mud's an A+, obviously.
Yeah.
And my number 2, Short Term 12.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Just seriously, even Entertainment Weekly was more or less saying, why aren't more people watching this movie? It's on Instant. If you haven't seen
it's another
you
one.
need to check it out. It really does show how great of an actress Brie Larson is, and how much more credit she truly needs in this career.
Yeah. For you mainstream fans, she played the sister in Trainwreck.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's where you might know her recently.
Did not get nearly enough
But-
screen time for me.
Yeah.
But fun role.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 1, as to be expected, Locke.
It's in a car.
It's in a car.
It is in a car.
One thing I think is really interesting about this one is, just out of curiosity, gentlemen, do you remember the trailer for this movie?
I don't think I ever saw the trailer.
Well, it will redefine.
Oh, that's not true. I did. I
Yeah.
did see it.
There
At,
were all
the
these pull
Art
quotes,
House
and I was
Theater.
thinking, oh, this is going to be all over the place. People are going to be talking about this.
Tom Hardy stars on the
Tom
rise.
Hardy's-
Yeah.
Tom Hardy only continues to get more popular.
Yeah.
Save.
I did think it was going to be a
Bigger.
mainstreamed movie. You're right.
I'm still not entirely sure what happened.
I don't
Subject
know.
matter, I guess.
Perhaps.
Maybe it was a little too uninteresting for the average viewer, I guess, to market. It was a great concept, though.
Oh, yeah. Just not quite sure.
I love some good minimalism.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Joe?
I did mine slightly differently. I was trying to look for movies that maybe we didn't talk about as much, that were quite as big, that I thought were almost forgotten.
Okay.
But
That's sort of how I did mine.
So I was trying to, I won't see anything real big here, but that's why I have a couple honorable mentions that are slightly off from that. Elysium, I thought was pretty successful when it came out, and I did like it quite a bit. I still do, but I feel like since then,
That may be one for the perdition list in a couple years. Because
Possibly,
you're right,
yeah.
nobody does talk
it's
about
like,
Elysium.
when that came out, a lot of people really liked it, and now
Right.
nothing.
Though my biggest issue with that movie is I enjoyed it the first time I watched it,
Mhm.
but the more I think about it, the more problems I have with it.
Which I think is fine, but I just kind of like the sci-fi elements, the atmosphere, and I like Damon in it, so it was fine for me. And the other one was Enemy, because I think that one
Oh, definitely.
got some buzz. I thought it was to be bigger, but kind of disappeared. I think people need to still know about Enemy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely a
That's a
thinker
good
for
choice.
your more surreal psychological stuff.
That one took me a while. That's a thinker. You're right.
I had to get down on that one.
Yeah.
I was going to say Under the Skin, but that one ironically had much more praise.
Definitely.
And because of
True.
Scarlett Johansson's bottom won't be forgotten anytime soon. But anyway, on to the list. World's End. World's End I loved, and you'd think it would have been a bigger hit, but with the whole Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, but I feel like no one's talked about it in comparison to the other ones. And I'm like, I don't know why. It was so fun.
Well, I feel like it's mostly because Shaun of the Dead is probably going to become a comedy classic. Hot Fuzz is really good as well. World's End is basically the least great one in the entry in the list, but
Still
it's,
good, though.
it's still a great movie.
I agree, but I really liked it. I'm like, I just
Yeah.
feel like because of that association, it should have been a little bit bigger.
Right.
But nobody's talked about it since then. Number 4 is Begin Again. I think this movie.
Great. You know
I
what? This
really-
was on my short list. I love Begin Again.
I know Justin hates
Justin's
this
got
one,
his problems with it,
but okay, this is my logic though, Justin. Okay, I did really like it, but that's not why it's on the list necessarily.
Okay.
It seemed like it was marketed to like a very mainstream audience, like something that would be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like it would fall in that line. Just didn't really pick up. I just thought it should have done better than it ultimately did, just because of the narrative and what was everybody.
Ruffalo,
involved in it.
Knightley.
Just like that, the cast and everything, the concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of
So,
course.
but I was surprised how much I liked that one. You didn't like the the flashbacks?
He hated the flashbacks.
Flashbacks.
Flashbacks are
flash
lazy.
forwards. Yes, flashbacks are lazy. Remember that one. Anyway, number 3 is Enough Said. I
Good
felt
choice.
like
That was the last one I cut from my list. That is a great choice.
because I was thinking of the Gandolfini final ones. There were a couple we discussed, but I think even ones like The Drop, I think a lot of people were like, yeah, last big Gandolfini. So there were a couple that got in there that were quite a little bit bigger. This one, really understated, not what you expect, but with Louise Dreyfus as well.
Yeah, for a huge Seinfeld fan, it was interesting to see her just go completely out of her
Her depth.
usual role.
Yeah, it
I
was
mean, she plays the same, On all of her TV shows, she's basically Elaine.
Elaine, yeah.
More or less.
And here, something completely different. So
I just thought it was a really very good movie. I thought very understated. Another, great Gandolfini as
well,
always.
as always, yeah.
It's just a good, drama, light comedy, romance.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I think that was the first one I saw over at the Capitol Theater.
I believe it was,
so,
yeah.
So it's kind of an experience for me, but I liked it a lot, and I wish that one got a little more praise. Number 2, I think Dan will appreciate. I'm not sure so much about Justin though. Maybe a little bit.
Go on.
Is Land Ho. This movie. This
Listen,
movie is really good.
It's a great movie.
It's an 80-minute video postcard, but it's fun.
No, it's good.
No,
the dialogue is great.
The dialogue, just
That character.
the cinematography, and those two men, just their
Yeah.
dialogue, their interplay. Just a really good story.
For what it's worth, though, it is definitely one of those movies that you go in kind of a little timid, and then it gets so much better as it goes along. So I'll give you that. That's a very good
It's a
choice.
good choice,
Just
Joe.
like nobody, I feel like no one knows about this one. It was
No, that is one to check out, Land
It was
Ho.
a good little movie.
Yeah.
And my number 1, I was going by one I'm pretty sure nobody saw just because of who's in it for association lately. But for Nicolas Cage, Joe was a pretty strong turn based upon everything else. I mean, you've got, what was it?
Ty Sheridan.
Left Behind.
From,
You've got Outcast.
Yeah.
And then you've got Joe, which is a pretty decent movie. It's kind of like Mudlight.
Yeah.
But for Nicolas Cage, a decent movie? Whoa!
Almost unheard of.
It is pretty unheard of.
So the reason I brought it up was if you guys want to have proof that Nicolas Cage still has capability to be a good actor, watch Joe. Just for that alone,
First one in a long time.
it's worth checking out.
No, I think we'll see a resurgence of Cage. It's just he needs to eradicate his debt at long last, which maybe in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So yeah.
Good list, though.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah. All right, so our final 5 here is going to be this movies that have been perditioned, which, as we said at the top of the show, was based on Road to Perdition, a movie that got a lot of buzz when it came out, and then 2-3 years later, never heard of it again from anyone ever. So these are movies that we feel like have been unfairly perditioned. Justin, why don't we get rolling with yours?
Number 5, Apocalypto. This is one that I feel like gets bad rap for 2 reasons. First is obvious, which is Mel Gibson. The second is, I feel like, a growing issue I continue to bring up with America. We can't stand subtitles. And it's ridiculous because we're missing out on some really great movies. And Apocalypto is one of them. It's got, say what you will about Mel Gibson, he is a great director. He has a really awesome sense of atmosphere. It's a really compelling story. And there's a lot of awesome action sequences in this that really bring it to life. And I feel like it missed out on a lot of really good accolades because of that. My number 4, I'm sorry.
Jump ahead, yeah.
Sorry, not to.
I'm going 1 to 5 on my list, so it's all good.
All right.
My number 4 is, hopefully neither of you will scrutinize me for this, L.A. Confidential. Now, this is one of those that you talk to anyone who's seen it and they'll tell you, oh, it was a great movie. However, if you're ever expecting anyone to bring it up in conversation, you're going to be waiting a long time. Because, I mean, it is a fantastic movie, and there's a lot of great people in it, and there's so many good things about it, but nobody talks about it. It's bizarre. Even when I was watching it back in high school, I was thinking to myself, how does no one bring this up more in film theory and film forums and things like that?
I mean,
People do
yeah,
bring it up on occasion.
I feel like LA Confidential does come up quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's
Not
not.
really.
It's not like the biggest, but I've seen it pop up. I think.
No, I mean, people will usually say, like, oh, yeah, that was a great movie, but no one will, like, go into, like, oh, yeah, Danny DeVito was in it, and Russell Crowe had a brief but
That's
memorable
the first thing
performance.
you would say, DeVito.
Yes. The first thing I would say about anything.
Well, I mean, he's like he's basically the narrator for the first act and a half. So.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I got you.
But my number 3 is one that's maybe a blessing and a curse for this list, and that is Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
I remember that movie. Big
Yeah.
bomb.
I think 3 people saw it.
An incredibly big bomb.
It did look interesting, though.
But this is one that you could argue kind of overstepped its grounds because it was groundbreaking in terms of the fact that it was filmed almost entirely on a blue screen. Everything from the sets to the props were CGI.
Right.
And I thought it was an incredibly fun movie, but it's also got very divisive reviews. Surprisingly, critic reception is very, very good. It got like 72%. And great cast, Jude Law, Angelina Jolie, Gwyneth Paltrow. But yet, no one talks about it. And I feel like in this era where we're always playing with CGI, we have a lot to thank it for. So
Well,
I think it's kind of an unsung hero in that regard.
I think there is definitely a lot to admire about the attempt of the movie, but I have mixed feelings about that one. That's another one that
I
might
never
be
saw
like...
it.
That's another one you think the classic 1940s sci-fi retro look, which, like I said, it looked cool, but I found the movie very difficult to get through personally.
Interesting.
But interesting choice.
No, I definitely know detractors. I used to hang out with a lot of kids who could not stand the movie. I think my aunt proudly proclaimed a month after I recommended it, I walked out after the first 30 minutes,
Oh, wow.
which saddened me, but I thought it was fun. Number 2 is another one, sort of like LA Confidential, that you might bash me for it, and that is The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh no, I think that gets talked about a
no,
lot, Justin.
No, I don't think so. When was the last time you heard anyone, quote, bring up The 40-Year-Old Virgin or anything?
I
A
talk
week
about it all the
ago, my brother
In
brought it up
context.
at the Shore House. He was just making a crack about Michael McDonald.
Dude, I quote...
I mean, I think it's a
No,
okay.
I
I mean, it's your list. That's
Gentlemen,
I
fine.
quote the evil, like,
Gentlemen,
Indian
tell
guy
me.
every day.
All right. Hypothetically speaking here, go to any person on the street, tell them, when you think Judd Apatow, what do you think? I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, they're going to say knocked up.
Judd Apatow. I mean,
Nobody says that.
Okay.
Bro. I don't know about that.
Oh, they say knocked up all the time.
Well, I mean, you're
no.
right.
I think they would say. You know what I think they would say? One, he didn't even direct Bridesmaids. You say Judd Apatow, they'd say Bridesmaids. You can't deny that.
I will.
I'm not so sure, but I'll.
It's-
But
it's
if you
your
say
word.
Steve Carell's movie career,
That's like the one.
that's the go-to.
It is the go-to, but you think Judd Apatow?
That and Little Miss Sunshine. Or like Dan in Real Life.
Mm,
You know.
In real life,
I actually
really?
thought about Dan in Real Life because I like that movie. I thought it was kind of
No,
tradition, but
it's
Get
cute.
Smart.
it maybe Get Smart kind of
Smart's a
came away.
different-
Date Night, if anything else.
Oh, Date
But
Night.
40-Year-Old Virgin, it's your list. If you feel like
I
it
have
was
a- I have a
prediction, that's
backup.
fine.
No.
I have a backup just in case, but I mean,
No, I mean, I will admit it's not talked about like maybe as much as some, but I feel like that's a pretty.
I feel like
big,
that's pretty
it's a pretty
big,
well-loved
personally.
movie, but
no, I mean, like when it came out, everyone was quoting it.
Sure.
Everyone was saying how great it was, and it was a great comedy. I gave it an A. It still continues to prove my point that Judd Apatow never understands how to end a movie. But then came like 5 years later, Zip. Not quite sure why, and it bothers me because it was probably his best movie.
All right.
But
You must hang in different circles. It comes up in my life, enough. But all
like I
right.
said, I have a backup.
No, it's your list, dude. If you feel like it's been prediction.
No, that's fine. You can stick with it.
Yeah.
I will admit, you're right. I don't talk about the movie to anybody, but I quote it to myself all the time.
Every time I have French toast, I think about it.
It's like just,
Right? I mean,
Well, okay. Look, I'll tell you what. Seth Rogen in that movie, just thinking about him, just gets me dying every time I think of any of his scenes.
No, it's great side character, but
See, so I don't know. I mean, interesting choice, but it's okay. I kind of did my list a different way anyway.
like I said, I have a backup.
Don't give.
Justin, it's your list. If you feel like it's been prediction, that's fine. But
That's cool. That's
it also
cool.
came up in a trivia question last week in a game I played. But whatever. That's neither here nor
It
there.
depends on what circles you go into.
Yeah, I mean,
To be
I'm in the
fair.
40-year-old virgin circles, I guess.
fair.
So what's your number one?
Well, my number one, clearly a gimme to you two, Ed Wood.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you go to. I mean, we've all. I mean, Dan and I and Joe have worked at a movie theater for a fairly long time, and I'm currently out. Joe's been out for a while, but you'd always run into the stray Burton enthusiast, and they'd proclaim their love for Tim Burton, which was always I love Nightmare Before Christmas, which is not technically a Tim Burton
Right.
movie.
That's
but-
my point with Judd Apatow and Bridesmaids.
Oh.
People don't know if you ask him a director.
Which is a pity, because I still will happily argue one of his earliest, Ed Wood, is by far one of his best. People seem to forget that it was even up for a Best Supporting Actor nomination. And I feel like it's also living proof that Tim Burton does so much more when he's a little bit grounded. When he's not trying to go for this crazy spectacle like you saw in Dark Shadows, and Alice in Wonderland, and countless other movies.
You missed the fact he got to his roots, basically.
Yeah. And this one, you even got a really passionate performance from Johnny Depp, which in this day and age I think is almost unheard of. And I wish we could get back to that, and I wish more people would have seen this one. I'm curious if the fact that it was more independent than his later stuff was the reason why this one got sort of swept under the rug.
Black and white couldn't have helped either.
Oh.
I'll never understand why that's such an issue.
Because
but
we're America, we're lazy. I mean,
not wrong,
you know,
Jen,
right? I mean, Nebraska's a great movie. That could have been on the 5 releases that have fallen through the cracks, honestly.
Easily.
You know? All right. Joe, what about your perditioned list?
Well,
Let's hear.
My perdition list was kind of a mix, because I didn't necessarily go by like the maximum success, but more by critical perception and even certain statuses cult-wise. But over time, I just feel like these movies are not as well liked now as they could have been before. I do have a couple honorable mentions, actually. I have to mention Road to Perdition, because it is kind of like the staple of the list.
I wanted to do it, but I felt like it was going to be too
obvious.
easy.
I didn't. I mean, it would have been like my number one, but that's way too obvious. But no, really, Road to Perdition is a great gangster movie. It's based on a graphic novel. A lot of people don't know that. Along with History of Violence, another possible one contender. But Tom Hanks gives another fantastic performance, very different than most of his roles. And I believe it's Jude Law plays one of the creepiest villains.
Oh, easily.
Ever.
Terrifying.
Ever. And it's just a really excellent movie, and a lot of buzz, and for like about a year, and then literally no one ever talks about it. Seriously, it's really bizarre. But that's the way it is, I guess. My number 5, actually, is The Leviathan. Now, this is like a late 80s horror movie that I feel like should have had much more of a cult status than it did, because it was one of the few Peter Weller performances outside of RoboCop that I guess he's kind of known for.
More or less.
And to be fair, the movie is basically Alien underwater, but it's a genuinely enjoyable horror film that did pretty well, and no one ever talks about it.
You're right.
And I think it's just a waiting cult status right there, because even if you see the problems in the movie, you could look at it. It has some genuine elements of horror that are good, and for body horror, and it's kind of got some good guilty pleasure stuff. I mean, it's a really enjoyable movie that came and just went. I think it was
it's a better movie than people give credit for.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
I don't really understand that. I just feel like it should be a little bit bigger than it is. But that was that one. I don't know how you feel about number 4. It's a different angle on Johnny Depp, but it's Nick of Time.
I've never seen it.
I like Nick of Time.
This was a good thriller. It was pretty big.
You know, I love real-time movies.
Real-time movie in the limited with Christopher Walken as the bad guy, telling Johnny Depp, "You got to kill the vice president or whatever, or we'll kill your daughter." It's a genuinely good movie, pretty successful. I think it's another showcase of Johnny Depp doing something different.
Yeah.
But once again,
I agree.
I know like 3 people that have seen it, that talk about it now. So don't know what happened there. My number 3 will make Justin happy, I think. It'll be Master and Commander. We actually discussed this recently. This was
The Far Side of the World?
Far Side of the World. Big, epic film. But just
not quite sure what happened.
Don't know what happened. Like, once again, they were wearing it up for like possibly a franchise, and it got a lot of great critical views, and nothing. Nothing.
Interesting.
Just like, but I remember when that came out, it was like this huge deal with the marketing, and everybody liked it, but no one talks about it anymore. I don't know. But apparently you've heard of it, though.
I've heard of it. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I knew Russell Crowe was in it.
Well, my number 2 is sort of a semi-sequel to American Psycho. That's Rules of Attraction. Now, this movie, a lot of critical praise. People love this one. And I mean, I think it's an excellent movie. Definitely in terms of just exploring romance and college life and just kind of once again, the dark underbelly of the 80s. Really excellent movie. Maybe a little dark for some viewers, but in honesty, but came and went, nobody talks about it. And I just remember when it came out, it was a pretty big deal. So, definitely recommend it if you guys haven't seen it.
I have not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard of it, but I've never seen it.
I remember it being one of our earliest conversations, though. I still need to check it out, though.
Oh yeah, I've been around it some time. It's a pretty good movie. My number 1 though is kind of interesting. It's Inland Empire. Now, being the big David Lynch fan, pretty much I was thinking about this on the way over here actually, considering this. Now, of the movies I listed, that one's arguably the most successful, I guess, in terms of the fan base knowing what it is. But in terms of the Lynch canon, virtually every single movie that he's done, even technically his worst, like Dune, would technically be his worst movie, but even that has a pretty big cult status.
Oh yeah, people love Dune.
A lot of people love Dune, so that's saying something. Inland Empire, which is his most recent movie, which I thought was quite excellent, nobody talks about. And I think it's kind of Lynch going back to his roots and kind of expanding on ideas from Mulholland Drive, but kind of combining some of his most Lynchian aspects, but just not really that known.
Interesting.
And just kind of as my other honorable mention, I remembered now, it wasn't quite big enough for me to actually put it on the list, but I did consider it for you, Justin. Not to overhype it for you.
Go on.
But Hero is a really
yes,
really
you
good
love
movie
Hero and no one talks
people
about it.
liked, and I think I don't know.
I don't know if it was ever that big of a movie to begin with.
That's why I didn't put it on the list officially.
So that makes sense
but
that it would be honorable,
I
but
do feel like it's been a little perditioned, though. I feel
Possibly.
like for Hoffman performances,
To some
Yeah.
extent.
you know, but
certainly a fan favorite here.
For
well,
lack of a
If
better
you're
word.
Joe.
well, I do love it. So you know, definitely. But Inland Empire, though, just like I mean, really, of all the films he's done, for some reason that one just has not gotten as much buzz.
Very
I
interesting.
don't know why.
All right. Well, all right. Here's my list of the movies that have been perdition. Now, I do have one honorable mention. Now, I went a little more older skewing
Okay.
Okay.
because I sort of went with how they were hyped up originally, which you guys might have been a little too young to even remember. So I knew these wouldn't be on your list.
Okay.
And I went, as you might imagine, a little more comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also figured I'd probably be alone in that regard. So I do have an honorable mention, and that is sort of in the 40-Year-Old Virgin vein, and that is Superbad. Superbad
true.
was huge when it came out, and other than whenever you see McLovin in something, oh, that's McLovin, no one
That's it.
ever talks about Superbad. They don't even remember probably Jonah Hill was in it. You know, I mean... It gets quoted maybe here and there, but certainly that was very hyped up at the time.
A little perdition.
And a huge hit. Okay, that was the new one on my list.
Okay.
These other ones are fairly older. Okay, number one is the Brady Bunch movie, which I know, Joe, you scoff at me every time I talk about the Brady Bunch movie. This is parody at its absolute finest. It's so good.
But isn't the Brady Bunch itself kind of a parody of itself anyway?
No, and that's why the movie's so good. The show wanted you to take it seriously, and the movie went the opposite direction.
Oh, man.
It's a great movie. When it came out, it was a huge hit.
It was big.
And nobody talks about it, other than to say that, oh, Ben Stiller married Marsha Brady.
And
'Cause Christian
Lumberg,
Taylor was
right?
in it. And Lumberg played the dad. You're right. You're right. People do talk about Lumberg. All right. Joe, you'll appreciate the next one on the list, and that is Doc Hollywood.
Ooh, well, you know what?
Oh, okay.
I actually had a great debate with myself of the great Michael J. Fox performances, because Secret of My Success could certainly fall into this category.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
That was even a bigger hit than this. But Doc Hollywood was
Talk about understated.
a big hit at the time. It was one of Woody Harrelson's first big theatrical films. And then didn't hear about it for a good, 18 years, and then Pixar put Cars out, and then everyone said, oh, this is Doc Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, people don't really talk about that. It's a very funny movie.
That's a great movie.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Number 3, I don't know if either of you have seen, Joe, you would love this movie, and that is The Dream Team.
I don't think
Never
I've
even
seen it.
heard of it.
Okay. Well, this was in 1989, hot off the heels of Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom, and Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future, and it paired Christopher Lloyd and Michael Keaton together.
Ooh,
it
already
was
sold.
a huge hit back in the day.
Okay.
Obviously based on that. Peter Boyle was also in it, who I didn't know at the time because
Ooh.
I had not seen Young Frankenstein
Okay.
back then. But of course, I would know as soon as Everybody Loves Raymond came out. I was like, oh my god, that's the dude from the Dream Team.
It's him.
But that was a very big movie at the time, and obviously you guys have never even heard of it.
No.
Quite perdition, I would say. Number 4 is 50-50. Another pretty recent one on the list.
I agree with that.
But this wasn't a huge theatrical hit, but critically it was
People talked
very
about it.
loved. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen, two people that everybody generally enjoys. Seth Rogen doing his first
Kind of dramatic.
kind of dramatic role, I would say. He's obviously the comic relief of the film, but still
He gets a couple dramatic scenes.
being more dramatic than in, say, Knocked Up,
Well,
or some of his other things. But there's one that nobody really talks about.
Sadly.
And the final movie on my list, Joe, this list seems tailor-made for you. You'll like this one as well. Monster House.
That's a good movie.
Monster House got
Perdition.
nominated for an Academy Award
Yeah.
for animated.
Yeah.
It is, I've never heard anybody say really anything negative about it.
No.
It's a great animated film.
But-
a little scary, maybe, but
But
still.
you have to
Still a
kinda-
good movie.
You have
Yeah.
to dig to actually bring it up in conversation, though. Like, very rarely does
yeah.
it come up. But, like, whenever you mention, oh, yeah,
Monster House was
pretty
great if they know it.
good. If they've seen it, yeah.
You know, and that is one I feel like
Oh, Monster House is very...
definitely been perdition because that was
I totally agree.
quite the rage back in the day.
Yeah, briefly.
That's sort of like the kids movie way of how I feel in regards to LA Confidential. No one says anything bad about it, but no one also really talks about it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's a good
Though 50-50 is a very good choice. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
I think the reason it became perditioned is because I don't think the target audience was ready for what it was going to be, which was a
Yeah, I think
more
they
sad story.
expected it to be a lot of yucks and
Yeah.
you know, let's have fun with the cancer plot. I don't know why they thought it was going to be so comedic, but
Yeah.
it's pretty serious subject
Oh, yeah.
matter.
It's pretty serious.
There are funny
You
moments,
know,
but
and
it's still a very serious movie.
It's very serious.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you.
I liked it.
So that good lists all around. I would say. I mean, very interesting choices. I don't think I've seen any of the ones on your perdition list, Joe.
Really?
I don't think
Well, then
so.
I guess it must have been a pretty decent
So,
list.
yeah, very. It's like the Dream Team. You
Yeah.
guys have never
I've
heard
heard
of
of
it.
the Dream Team before.
No, it's not.
But yeah, so interesting choices. And perdition is a list I feel like we could revisit over and over again because there's always movies being perditioned.
Yeah.
You know.
More these days than ever before, I'd say.
Yeah.
Feels
yeah.
like it.
So, well, that's the show. You know, happy anniversary, guys! 2 years is going strong. We're almost at 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So,
Gotta love that.
you know, yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, listeners, go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you on board. Facebook group, Film Fanatics with an exclamation point. We do our 5-word reviews there weekly, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. So, thanks so much for checking out the show, guys. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.